All right, so when you are ready to get started, you'll need to grab one of these master copies of the patterns on this really thick beige paper that we have, and we have color-coded our patterns to keep the pieces together. So this skirt pattern has a total of 5 pieces. So as you notice, there is this piece here first, in which it is called a skirt back. So this, you will cut 2 of these, and they will be 2 separate pieces. Pay attention to things such as the grain line, that is the direction of the grain. These marks here, which are notches, they will need to get marked. And of course, the dart here. So then, as you remember, there's darts, 2 darts on the front, 2 darts on the back. So this, the back becomes 2 separate pieces because the zipper in the middle back breaks up the 2 pieces. I will explain more about that. And then we have here this skirt front piece. So notice again, notch marks, we have the dart, and then we have this grain line, but it is a place on the fold grain line. So when it is not just a line, but it becomes a box, that always indicates that this edge here needs to be on the edge where the fabric is folded, right? So make sure that this piece gets placed on fabric that is folded and this side is on the fold, so that when you cut out the piece, it will open up double wide. Okay, so now I'm going to talk about these 3 waistband pieces, and the wording on them gets a little bit confusing. So I'm just going to talk about them one at a time. So we're going to start here first with the one called front facing, and it says cut on the fold. So when you copy these pattern pieces, make sure you also copy the wording exactly, because I guarantee you will probably forget it later. I have to write things down or I forget. We have notches, of course, and then we have this grain line that also is a box indicating that it needs to be on the fold. So the pattern piece here will be on fabric that is folded like that. This is cut once with the fashion fabric only. So I have a little diagram, and yes, this front facing piece goes on the fabric that's been folded, and it is only cut once in the fashion fabric. Then next, we have the skirt interfront facing. So again, it has the place on the fold grain line here. And I will have already talked about what facing is in the class before we start this project. And so this piece here, this interfront facing, this is the interfacing diagram. This piece only gets cut out once, only in interfacing, right? So, and you can even tell because it's smaller than the piece that's going to be cut out in fashion fabric, and you will know why once I have explained my interfacing demo. And the only piece that gets cut out in both the fashion fabric and the interfacing is the skirt back facing, cut 2. So this is not placed on a fold, but there is still a grain line. So again, you will cut 2 of these in fashion and then 2 of these in interfacing. And again, the reason why this one is not on the fold is because this is a piece for the back. And if you remember, the back of the skirt is being separated by a zipper, and that is why it is in 2 different pieces instead of 1, because if it was just one solid piece, then there's nowhere to put the zipper in between. So as you can see here, here's that skirt inner back facing piece. It is not on the fold, and it's cut out in 2 layers. You know, the fabric is folded, so you'll get 2 pieces of the interfacing with this piece, and then placed on the fashion fabric, not on the fold. Once you cut it out, then you will get 2 pieces of it in the fashion fabric. So I hope that makes sense. Again, front facing, cut on fold, only fashion fabric. Skirt front facing, this is only for the interfacing, also cut out on the fold. this piece is cut out on the fashion fabric and the interfacing while the fabric is folded, which means you will end up with 2 of these pieces in fashion fabric and 2 of these pieces in interfacing. So that is all the pieces. So go ahead and make a copy of this pattern for yourself. That's step number 1, and then I will show you how to place it on the fabric. So this here is an example of the master copy pattern pieces on some butcher paper. So to keep my pieces from moving around, I have chosen to use the pinning method here. We also have these really nice pattern paper weights in the classroom, and you can kind of place them on there however you want. For these longer pieces, I would probably end up doing maybe one here and one there. It won't work as well for those smaller pieces. So just kind of, know that those are your different options. You could also, alternatively, this paper is a little thick, so it might be hard to do, but you could, of course, pin the 2 pieces of paper together, but we generally don't do that with 2 pieces of paper. That's more for if you are pinning the pattern on the fabric, because it's easier to pin paper to fabric than it is paper to paper. So in terms of copying the pattern here, the outside is pretty straightforward, right? You're just going to trace the outside. As for these inside details that are more intricate, if you remember from the samples binder, there are a couple different methods for marking these and getting them accurate. So you can use this tracing wheel and the red wax paper, or just even the tracing wheel, because when you make holes, you probably, I don't know if you can see them, but this will make holes in the paper without the red tracing paper. If you do decide to use this tool, just please remember to not go the whole way. You can see someone has already done that, and it has created this perforation, and this could make the paper really weak and maybe even make it like tear off the piece. All you need to do is like 1 mark at the beginning, 1 mark at the end, and then maybe 1 in the middle. For like the grain line. And if it's a really long line, you could even do maybe just like 2 more. Something like that. Again, if you're going to do a dart, just do like 1 side of the point, the other side of the point, the end, the end. That's all you need. You don't need to drag it and make holes across the whole thing. Or my preferred method is just using a pencil and making a mark, probably more so for these darts. These grain lines don't really have a lot of holes in them, and I don't want to make one with my pencil, but I do notice there's a lot of holes in the darts, so I can just put my pencil right through this hole that's here for the tip of the dart, and same thing for the 2 ends of the dart. Last but not least, if your pattern has notches, which this one kind of does, or words, you need to copy them word for word. Otherwise, you might forget what the piece is, and that's really critical, and it will mess you up. So